Hello everyone, Jim Page here for Fly Fishing for the Rest of Us. I decided to start a little YouTube channel just to have a conversation with everybody and share some of my experiences. Like many of you, I started conventional fishing at a very young age. I was 4 when I started conventional fishing and did that for most of my life, but over the last 20 years I've really have been focused on fly fishing in various areas. So I thought I would share some information that some of the other channels leave out, or hopefully shed some light on some different areas of fly fishing you might not have thought about. And if you're new to fly fishing, give you a little advice from some of the hard lessons I learned over the last 20 plus years. And hopefully you enjoy the channel. And I do want to thank everyone on YouTube who puts out content. There's a tremendous amount of good fly fishing content on YouTube already. There's also a lot of conventional tackle content that you can use some of those techniques in your fly fishing career. So I'd like to thank everybody for the work they've done. It takes time to put out these videos. You're also exposing yourself to negative comments. And if you do watch any videos on YouTube, if you have comments, be nice to the people who put out content, because it is time consuming to do this. And a lot of them have significant investment in their cameras and their video equipment and their editing equipment. So a little more about me. Born in upstate New York, grew up fishing farm ponds like a lot of folks with spin casting equipment. We moved to the coast of Georgia when I was 7, which was a great place to grow up and fish, but a horrible place to fly fish. So from age 7 all the way up into my early 20s, I fished inshore saltwater just about 100% of the time, with some freshwater going into the freshwater rivers in that area. A lot of cork fishing, a lot of bottom fishing, live bait, trolling with grubs and jig heads in the winter for sea trout when the sea trout were really tuned in to glass minnows. So now that I'm almost 58, I've had a significant amount of fishing experience. After college, during college I couldn't fish, didn't have any money. Like many people, I had to work my way through college. Didn't have time either. And then after college, I made a little bit of money, started fishing again along the coast of Georgia. I ended up eventually over in Panama City, where I fished a lot. I really started hardcore fishing after work in Panama City, and on the weekends, I was fishing anywhere from 3 to 5 days a week, strictly conventional. After a couple of years of that, ended up back in Atlanta, the metro Atlanta area, and decided I wanted to get into fly fishing because I had a significant investment in conventional tackle, but I had grown kind of bored fishing with conventional tackle. It just got a little too easy for me, and I always fished after work and on the weekends and on my vacations. I have family that lives on the coast, so on my holidays, I was able to go down and fish on the coast of Georgia with my family. And so a little over 20 years ago, I really got serious about my fly fishing. I had some fly fishing equipment and some fly tying equipment that I had acquired back in the early 90s, but I really wasn't ever serious about it. So I just decided that I was going to get really serious about my fly fishing. Started tying more of my own flies, and the first real fish I landed on a fly rod was a 30 plus inch redfish down on the coast of Georgia in a little saltwater pond on a clouser that I tied myself. So that pretty much sealed the deal for me. After that, that was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, just a little over 20 years ago. And ever since that, I've been full on fly fishing. I do have conventional tackle. I do fish conventional tackle. If we want to put some fish in the freezer, which we do like to eat fish, I'll break out my conventional tackle for that. One thing I learned from fishing conventional for all those years is some of the size, shapes, and colors that work. I can replicate those sizes, shapes, and colors with my flies when I tie them. I'm not going to talk a lot about trout fishing, cold water trout fishing. There's a tremendous amount of content and really nice content on YouTube about trout fishing. The new fly fisher, the Orvis Guide to Fly Fishing, huge fly fishermen, they all put out a tremendous amount of good, solid trout, brown trout, rainbow trout, brook trout, your cold water trout species. They put out a lot of great content. So if you do have a lot of trout fishing or salmon fishing questions, I'm not going to actually talk about that much. I'll answer any questions that I can, but there's other people who know that area of fly fishing much better than I do, and I don't want to waste your time. I was very fortunate over the course of my working career that I had several jobs where I had to travel a lot, and that enabled me to go to Alaska and Hawaii and Bermuda and different parts of the Northeast and different parts of Canada. So I was able to do some fishing in some very distant locations that probably would not have happened if I had to pay for it out of my own pocket. Because I was there with work, I was able to fish while I was there, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. That was part of the benefit of having a job where you traveled, and the other benefit of fly fishing being a very portable or travel friendly sport. A 4-piece fly rod and flies you can take right on the aircraft with you. You don't have to check them, and they're not heavy. And on the weekend and after work, I could steal some fishing trips in those different areas. So I have traveled a fair amount, most of it tied to work, but I always try to sneak some fishing trips in along with work. I've lived in some pretty interesting areas, the coast of Georgia, the panhandle of Florida. I'm in Atlanta now. It's not really an interesting area, but we have a great airport, and I can get to anywhere I need to get to fish in one flight, one hop, which is a benefit. So I'm going to start my channel. I'm going to start with some introductory material. If you want to know about some of my experience with fly fishing, I'm going to touch on some of the areas I fished. I'm going to touch on some of the flies I carry. I'm going to touch on some gotchas on travel, some things to be aware of. And I'm going to focus on, for those of us who don't have a lot of time, those of us who have a full-time job or a family and kids and responsibilities outside of fly fishing, I'm going to give you some hints about some things I've discovered, how you can sneak in fishing trips when you're on family trips, how to get the best information on where you're going fishing, some generic flies I take everywhere I go. I'm not going to show a bunch of flies that I tied. I'm going to focus on flies that you can purchase at a local fly shop or a local big chain shop, big box shop. So not everyone has time to tie flies. And it's sometimes just easier to buy flies, especially if you're on a tight timeline. So thank you for looking at my channel. I'm not a full-time YouTuber. I have a full-time job. I have wife. I have dogs. My job sometimes is 40 hours a week. Sometimes it's 60 hours a week. So I don't have an infinite amount of time to fish like I used to when I was single. I'm going to focus on the things that you can do with time constraints in mind. So I hope you enjoy watching my channel. I'm going to be putting up videos as I had time. I don't have any time during the week to put videos out usually, unless I have taking some vacation day and traveling and fishing. So tight lines to everybody, and I hope you find the follow-on videos helpful.